This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rockstar dads who started a show. So here's the next episode.
Oh, yeah, you know it's us when you hear that riff come in.
Fucking badass rockin' riff, man.
You know what I do have, though? Like, I guess, why don't I just load in the podcast, like our theme? I have the instrumental. Like, we could just talk over that, and it's all like, bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. Our podcast or the
Our
theme
show.
for our podcast, it's our show.
It's
It's like awesome. It's the best.
It's the best.
But it's not rocking.
That's true. You know what I'm going to do? I bet you, because Linus of Hollywood, who the listener you should know is the 5th member of Bowling for Soup. I guess that'd be the 7th. Anyway, I made myself laugh, and Gary is fully straight-faced right now. Like, that wasn't funny?
I was sitting there going, I was like, man, we could probably add a few more in there. I don't know.
No, we're not. Anyway, so besides producing and writing and stuff, he does, like film and TV stuff. So he works a lot with the guy, sorry guys that I have something in my throat. Gabriel Mann, who did, and made a fortune from Modern Family. Like, can you imagine writing that theme and that, like, the syndication to that shit now? Like, it's always on. It's the Seinfeld of 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always on.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to do the same thing Seinfeld did. I mean, that's going to be the model, right? I mean, where you go and you sell it to Cracker Barrel or whatever the one, Crackle, and then you sell it to Netflix, right? You know?
We've talked about this in the past. Like, I don't watch a whole lot of TV at home. You don't watch a whole lot of TV at home. Like,
No.
But I used to always just have TV on for noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm listening to so many podcasts, or, I listen to different shows on YouTube, and I say listen to, like, I don't really watch them. I just turn them on for information that I want, right?
Sure.
And, but that's one of those shows that here's whenever I figure out that it's on all the time. Like, whenever we go to a hotel, that's whenever I turn on TV.
Yeah.
And it's always on.
Man, and this is so funny that you just said that, because God, this is great. You know why I love our show so much? Because it really is. And you know what Ashley Fisher was saying the other day? Good friend of mine, in my group that I have, the crew, so to speak. She goes, I love your show, but I just like when you and Gary are just shooting the shit, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
that's how this whole show started anyway. And we just happened to be like, your kids were little, and like, well, mine too. I mean, Everett was little, so we just happened to just be in situations where we were talking about our kids a lot. But I like this show because if y'all haven't picked up on this or not, like, there's no plan. We literally just, I'm like, are you ready to start? And then we just start talking, and then that's it. So anyway, here we are to sitcoms, and here I go expanding on exactly what you just said. And we were just talking about that. So here's the thing. Everett has gotten into this Young Sheldon show. Okay. So, it's been on, like a bit, like, because when he comes home, he has like 30 minutes to an hour before he has like baseball practice or music lessons or whatever. And so, like, he watches downstairs. And so I've gotten to watching this Young Sheldon, from my computer. And I'm like, this show is freaking funny. Like, it's really, really good. Now, here's the thing. The only reason it's even remotely funny to me is because in hotel rooms, I have watched The Big Bang Theory before. And as people in the UK who listen to this will know, Big Bang Theory is the Seinfeld of the United Kingdom. So, like, anywhere you are, at any time, you can turn on the television in the United Kingdom and Big Bang Theory is on. And so I have seen that show enough times to know that this Sheldon who's like the guy that's the apartment they're in where this all takes place most of the time. I know his character enough to know, okay, this is him as a little kid. And so it makes it really funny to see this little kid playing him, because have you watched this show, Gary?
The Little Sheldon?
Yeah, Little Sheldon.
I've never seen Little Sheldon. No.
Okay, so they're in Texas. He's from Texas, and that's part of the humor, is that he grows up in this house, and it's so Texan. Like, his mom is always at Bible study. His dad's the coach at the local high school. His brother is a teenager and just wants to get laid, and he's got a twin sister who is exactly the opposite of him. So she's not smart, but she feels feelings. And he's smart, but doesn't feel feelings. And then they've got Annie Potts, Ghostbusters, what do you want? Living like next door, and that's the grandma. And the scenarios are so... Anyway, it's really funny, and I've gotten like... But the thing is, I don't know that show Big Bang Theory. I just have seen enough of it from it being on that now I have this context to where I can enjoy this other show.
Yeah, so I've never, quote unquote, watched Big Bang Theory. Now, I've seen it. It's been on. I'm aware of it. I know some of the characters, but like I've never watched it episode to episode.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, like, so Everett's into the Little Sheldon, and as he's getting older, is he going to like graduate into watching the Big Bang Theory, like the older Sheldon? Or is that show just going to be so irrelevant by then?
Well, I just hope he doesn't find that tape in my closet called The Big Bang Weary. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Come on. You can't. It's a dad show, man. No, I don't know if I think he's probably seen that show before and probably thinks it's fine. But I think this show, I don't know. It's sort of topical, actually. This is the weirdest opening and segue to a show that we've done yet, because I was going to talk about him switching schools. And this kid, Sheldon, he's bored in elementary school, so he's in high school. They actually try to get him to like come up to Dallas to live. Dallas is the big city, of course. Well, it actually is the big city. So I don't know why I did quotes there, Gary. It's the big city to you and I too.
It's a pretty fucking big city.
We literally live outside of Dallas in the suburbs. That's the big city. Anyway. All right. Enough about the Sheldon. But I do want to go back and say this. One time on a trip, me and as you know, because I've told you this before, but on vacations, Casey and I allow ourselves one hungover day, right? Now, we can each get our own, which usually my hangover day, I'll just go like, hey, y'all going down to the beach. I'm going to be on my computer for a while, and I'll meet y'all down there. I get caught up on any Bowling for Soup that I missed or whatever, and then I take a nap, and then I go meet them. But sometimes it times out to where we have our hangover day together, and so we do that thing in the hotel where we turn it on. And this one trip in particular, that showed The Middle was on. And it's this marathon, and it's the lady from Everybody Loves Raymond and her family and the hijinks that they get into. And we watched that show, and it was pretty funny. Like, but it's just so funny how you're so right. Back to your point, when you and I get into the hotel, even just as roommates on the road, not just family stuff. The first thing, you go to the air conditioner, and I go to the remote. Like, that's just what we do. Yeah. And it's unspoken. I don't think
get the room set up. Yeah.
We've never even said that out loud, I don't think. It just happens. Like,
no, never.
You sleep by the window. I sleep by the door. We've never discussed that. It's just what happens, right? Like, that's...
Yeah.
You know exactly where you're going to put your bag. I know exactly where I'm going to put my bag. I always put my computer bag on the computer table, whether I'm going to get it out or not. You always put your bag in the chair.
It's it not only is it unspoken, it's just a rule. I mean, it's happened a million times. We've never talked about it, never thought about it.
Yeah,
I've never even like realized it.
Me either.
You're right.
Till just now. Yeah, but anyway, so that's the thing. You turn on the TV when you go, and then it's just kind of like whatever's on, it just becomes on anyway. So I watched that Middle show, and now I'm thinking back to I had a hangover day in my previous life, and we watched an entire day of Dog the Bounty Hunter. And like, that's my entire exposure to Dog the Bounty Hunter. Like I've never sat at
The
home.
one day.
Yeah, I've never sat at home and gone, like I wonder how can I blow some
That's funny. Like, it's funny how there's shows or movies or whatever that like you watch it because of a situation, and there's times where it just happens. Right? You're saying a hangover day, and you watch Dog the Bounty Hunter. But sometimes you plan it. So like I can't think what the movie is, but there was a movie the other day that I saw a preview for, and I was like, "That looks all right. I'm not gonna go see it. I'll watch it on an airplane."
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
right,
like you plan when you're like you plan your. I'll just see it sometime. Like
that's
that
new.
makes sense.
That's new though, right? I mean, like, but I guess it's not. I tell you, I remember when Netflix you just used to get them in the mail. So that's what I did. I had the subscription, never once watched one of them at home. I just burned them into my computer, and then I watched them on my iPod or my iPod Color on a little 2-inch screen in my bunk, and I just watched movies. That's how I watched Dexter. just
That's all. But it makes sense. Before streaming.
Yeah.
Netflix, we ordered these CDs, right?
Yeah.
And you kept them as long as you want. You're just paying your monthly fee, right?
Yeah.
So you could keep the same disc for a year. You're just paying your monthly fee.
Right.
And I would do that because back in like my 20s, I got the flu every year.
Yeah.
Sometime in the winter, I would get the flu. It just happened.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
True.
And I would each year I would just order the season of Sopranos that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And I just wait. Whenever I had the flu, I'm going to watch this season of The Sopranos.
Man, you know what?
That's how I did it.
I've tried to watch The Sopranos like twice now. And this time I kind of blame Casey because Casey, I think, are all women on their phone when they watch TV? Is that a thing? Like,
yes.
Okay. So,
my wife constantly does this thing, and we talk about it. So it's not like I'm talking trash about her. She knows that this happens, but we watch certain shows together, and she's always on her phone. So there's episodes that she has watched, but she hasn't seen.
Right.
And to watch the next episode, she has to see it. Mm-hmm. And so she'll watch that same episode like 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
To watch it.
So Casey's thing is now, and again, same. We talk about this and she knows. So like, if it's something where she's going to have to read, like if there's subtitles, like then if it's at one point in the evening, I'm like, nah, that's not going to work because you're never going to look at the TV and you're going to keep asking me what's going on. And so I literally gauge what we're going to watch based upon like what time of the night it is and how her day was, So like, but if it is something like if something happens and it's important, I'm just conditioned now to go, you pick up on that? She'll go, no, what's the deal with this? Let me rewind it just a little bit. We'll just keep you in it. Because I just got to keep her in it, And that's what happened with The Sopranos. I think there's some character development at the beginning of the series, of course, right? And I just don't think it grabbed her, Like, we made it through the ducks and, like, him going to therapy and, and I talked, and I was, like, kind of keeping her. I'm like, that's the lady from the other movie, what's the greatest mafia movie, or at least one of them all the time with Ray Liotta and...
Goodfellas?
Goodfellas. I'm like, that's the lady from Goodfellas, only back then she couldn't act, and now she can. She's the psychiatrist, right? And actually, you know what? That's not fair. Now when I watch Goodfellas, I sort of see her character a little bit better, but I don't know. She's a stronger actress. Man, she got hotter, too, with age. Like, I don't know that I could have her as my therapist, if I'm being totally honest. Like, live in person, like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because she's hot now?
Well, and, because she crossed her legs and, like, flight attendants are hot. You know what I mean? Like, it's that whole thing. It's just this... It's this never-ending spiral of me not being able to have her as my therapist. And... unless she sat behind a desk, maybe, then but I'm not sure you could ask him to do that. But anyway, let's get back to school. So Everett, did a very grown-up thing, and I'm very proud of him. He is 10 years old, 10 and a half-ish. And as we've talked about on this program, But I'll go over this really quickly because we have a lot of new listeners, by the way. Thank you guys. And if you are listening via podcast, why not smash that subscribe button and leave us a gosh darn review. Last time did I tell you we had 69 reviews and I laughed because I'm 51?
Yeah, we both laughed.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, Everett came to us one day, and again, he's been in Spanish immersion since he was in kindergarten. He had to test in. And what that basically means is that half his day is just in Spanish. So when he's learning, I believe, science and social studies, maybe, it's all in Spanish. And so everything was great. He has ADHD. He's a 504 kid, which basically means like he does have, sometimes he gets extra time on things and all of that. But he was doing great and he was keeping up. And then COVID happened. And all these kids, these poor kids, man, like hearing somebody in the room speak Spanish to you and watching somebody on the computer while the other kids are chiming in and this and this and this. And you're watching these videos and he's a fidgeter and he's, a squirrel all the time. And man, he paid the price for it. He's just so behind. And so, obviously he's been back in school now, 1.5, 2 years, whatever it is. I can't remember. But, he just basically was like, look, I don't know what this lady's saying. He's just like, I'm not learning anything. He's like, I don't know all the states because she said we go over it in Spanish and I don't understand what they're saying. And then I ask my friends and they don't help me and this and this and this. And so that was his first argument. And he goes, now also I'm going to be going into junior high and I'm not going to know any of those kids. And all my friends from the neighborhood and my baseball team go to this other school. And so socially, it's going to be very awkward because like they're going to have other friends and now I'm going to know these people, but they're, and it was like he had this, 5-point argument, but it wasn't an argument. We were listening to him. Here's a child making a point. And I was just like, that makes perfect sense to me. As much as we really wanted him to finish, the goal was for him to be bilingual. And there's no way at the end of 6th grade, because he would do 1 year in middle school, there's no possible way that kid's going to be bilingual at the end of 4th grade and he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And so we switched schools. And I don't know if and maybe it's just because he switched out of a program into a school that he would be going to anyway. But that process is a 5-minute phone call. And then Casey just called to ask about it, right? To just go, what are the things? And then I get a call. I'm on the road with the country band, and not the contraband, the country band, Gary. And they
enunciation.
Sorry. And she calls. She goes, "Okay, he starts on Tuesday." And I'm like, "Whoa!" That escalated quickly. I'm like, "You got the bus figured out?" "No, I don't have any of that figured out." She's like, "It just went into motion," And
I'm amazed that they don't do any like trying to convince you to stay in the program type thing, because I know that like those programs are somewhat limited, but they're also, at least here, they're protective of it, meaning like they'll go, once you're in it, you can't get out, because not you can't get out, but they'll go, if you get out, you can't return it if you go to come back to the school or whatever. And I'm not trying to say yay or nay. I'm just surprised that they just like, okay, sure, done.
Fantastic point. That's not exactly how it happened, because we have brought up the concern. We have these meetings. We can call a 504 meeting anytime, which means we can meet with the teachers and the counselor. And the principal actually comes in to ours because she was the vice principal when he started. And we have brought that up enough times to where here's the thing. It
wasn't out of the blue for them.
No, but they can't tell you, like, we think he shouldn't be in this program. Like, they can't legally say that. They can give you all of the facts and whether he's having trouble adjusting to this or this or this. But the thing about it is, this year he's done great. but he's just so behind, and he's worried that that's the other thing. When these Spanish immersion kids get into junior high, they're already behind anyway because they just learned a language. So junior high is spent catching up, and then when they get to high school, they're ahead of everybody, right? So he's like, I'm already going to be behind, and now I'm going to be behind, and I'm not going to be able to speak this language or whatever. And so, yeah, but you're right. They will try to talk you out of it, I think, if it hasn't been a thing of discussion enough times or whatever. But here's the thing. I got to take a break, but when we come back, Gary, I want to tell you what it's like going to a new school in the suburbs in 2023. Okay?
All right.
And so we got to take a quick break. You're listening to the Rockstar Dad Show. I'm Jaret. That's Gary. And we will be right back. Y'all listen to this. Welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show. Don't forget, if you're just joining us for the first time, we're on iDoby Radio every single Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then on Wednesdays, wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, you can watch the video of our show on our Facebook page or on our YouTube. And we are quite attractive.
As you said, on video now, we both scratched our necks.
I know, right? I can't help it.
Hey, it's who we are. We're no scratchers.
Man, I started watching this show called Love Is Blind because, the only television I really watch is trashy TV, and Teen Mom has jumped the shark, and so I don't watch that anymore. And Unexpected is not back yet. But they're only coming back with like a few of the moms. But I know one of the dads now who I met because of the internet. And not the dad, I'm sorry, a grandpa, right? He's not like the father of it. That'd be weird. I'm really good friends with this 18-year-old kid who got a girl pregnant at 15. That'd be fucking weird.
Real close.
This guy's a fireman. And has been for a long time. All right. Anyway, Remember I told you that I realized that I say the word like a lot? Like, I'm like, hey, like, because we put out a clip the other day, and it was a really great clip that we did for ALEXA and SIRI.
Yeah.
And I found it unwatchable because I said the word like so much. Anyway, now it's exclamated because I'm watching this Love Is Blind, and the really hot girl on there says like before she says like it. See? Damn it. All right. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm going to get one of those things that, like shocks me every time I say it, but somehow it knows if I'm saying it like, I really like that it wouldn't shock me or something. All right. So here's the deal. So my son is starting this new school, and I actually I thought, man, I'm going to just text a couple of the baseball parents and just say, hey, Everett's starting there on Tuesday. If such and such sees him, will you just tell him to just, say hi to him or whatever, right? Because I thought, that'd be nice. He's walking down the hall and somebody's just like, hey, Everett, which I don't know why I didn't have the confidence they'd just do that anyway, because that's what happened. Everybody is very happy to see him. Everybody was awesome. So happy to see him, in fact, that when he was dropped off at school the first day, just dropped off in the drop-off line, the first teacher, who isn't even his grade, just goes, you must be our new student, Everett. How you doing, Everett? I'm Miss Black-a-Dong-Dong, right? And as he's walking into the school, every single teacher with a beautiful, uplifting smile says hi to this child and knows him by name and tells him how glad they are that he's here and how that's
unreal.
It is unbelievable. In fact, this is the thing. Since then, we've been to a program there. The music program was unfucking believable. It was like something like that they would have had to have rehearsed for months and months and months. That kid had been in that school for less than 2 weeks. We weren't going to even take him. Hey man, you don't even have to go because, you're probably not going to know the songs. Well, I don't know. I've been working on the songs or whatever. Kid played a drum, a ukulele in the program. They found a way to include him in this thing. He went on a field trip his second week there.
Wow.
Knew all the kids in his group, right? Now, here's the thing. Every single person in that fucking school has a smile on their face, Gary. Every single one. And here's the deal. When I went to elementary school, teachers and faculty were not allowed to smile. Ever. They weren't allowed to smile. They didn't fucking smile.
Not allowed? You're saying not allowed or just they didn't?
Well, they didn't. I'm assuming it was a rule.
Right.
Because, and they...
I think it was just a different time.
And they certainly... You think?
Yeah.
And they certainly... Teachers that weren't going to teach the fucker didn't say hi to the new kid. That never happened.
So, no, that never happened. Whenever you're telling me that, like, my initial thought was like, because I'm an overthinker,
sure.
Right? I think way too much. But whenever I heard that every teacher, even the teachers that aren't his teacher, were saying hi, I was like, I wonder what that's going to do to him in the future when he's older and like trying to, get in trouble and do shit. Because whenever you get in trouble and do shit, it's whenever you're around authority figures that don't know you. Yeah. But if you're sitting there going, oh shit, everyone knows me, I don't know.
That's so funny. I got in trouble from a teacher that wasn't mine in junior high.
That's not nice.
Oh my God. Was that SIRI? You're right. She does chime in at weird times. Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. All right.
Well, apparently that's not nice.
That is not. Oh man. The timing of that. My gosh, I can't wait to get this clip. I'm going to put this on the TikToks. I got in trouble for a teacher. I was in his class doing the thing where I was talking to somebody and like it was between class. I wasn't supposed to be in his class. And he told me to get out of there. And I said some smart ass fucking comment, because that's who I am as a human still to this day. And Jesus, the thing is, I'm the nicest person in the world. I'm not crazy about being told what to do. And that, no. I guess, is something that I've learned in therapy. Like, I abide by rules. Like, look, I cross when they tell me to and all of that stuff. I just don't like when
But we all...
Yeah.
We all understand that some rules are fucking stupid.
Right. I wasn't hurting anything in this situation. And I wasn't a smart ass to teacher just because. I didn't think it was cute. I just, I don't like being told what to do in stupid situations. Like I don't like if we go into a restaurant and there's no table and they won't let us sit down, but there's 12 tables over there and that section is closed and there's a line out the door. I'm like, well, why can't we sit there? That's fucking stupid. And they're like, well, we don't have the wait staff or whatever. I'm like, well, isn't that your fault? Like, right? I mean, I don't need, maybe that's not a good example. God bless the restaurant industry. Anyway, so this guy tells me to get out of his class and I say some smart ass comment and he goes, don't you mimic me. And I go, I honestly don't know what the word mimic means. And he thought I was being a smartass, and I got licks for that. Like, I got literally paddled for saying I didn't know what the word mimic meant in the 7th grade. And I'm like, I honestly don't know what that means. Like, what does it fucking mean? Like, of course, everybody laughed, and I think that made it worse. Anyway, I got licks from a teacher I'd never spoken to ever in a fucking school where nobody smiled. And but anyway, it's been joyous. He's in this new school. He is behind a little bit. He's figured it out. But I mean, now he's got, he's forgetting to turn shit in because they didn't have to turn their homework in the other school. They like had to enter it into the computer or something. And, it's just this whole learning curve. But just the way that faculty is to those kids. I mean, you and I have talked about happy principals already, right? Because my principal in my elementary school back in the 70s and early 80s, which seems so fucking weird to say, but was like this really tall, dark complected war veteran guy who like had his hair slicked back like with like the, you know, like the 50s, you know, and meaner than shit. This guy was so fucking mean. I mean, everybody was terrified. It might as well have been Freddy Krueger, you know? And now, like, principals can be hot now. And, like, this motherfucker stands at the car line, and if there's a dog in the car, he has dog treats in his pocket and holds up the car line to pet the dog. This is where my child goes to school now, Gary.
Yeah, that's like unreal stuff.
It's unbelievable.
You know, like that. I don't know. You hit the jackpot. That's not like. And this is what school is like today. No, that's just you move to a great school.
It feels like I'm in a movie.
You know what,
man? It really does. Even the police officer. So they have a police officer at the school, and at all schools in Texas, right? We have a police officer. Isn't that right? Isn't that a thing? Yeah, because the ISDs have their own police force here. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's what.
I don't know if it's every single school. Some school districts don't have enough, and they still like they'll rotate. They'll be at this school part of the day and that school part of the day. But yes, there's police officers at schools.
So these guys and amazing men and women. They in the morning they're out there, you know, making sure traffic is flowing and making sure the crosswalks are cool and all of that. And and the one at his old school, just this stern looking guy and like just got this mean look on his face all the time, and like he points at you if you're not going and stuff. And even when you pass him in the school or whatever, he doesn't look at you in the eye and shit. And now the police officer is just this lovely lady, and she's just happy all the time. And like, I made a mistake and went down the wrong lane, and she's like telling me to get in the other lane, but like in a thoughtful way to where I wasn't even mad. Like I was like, oh shit, I'm doing it wrong, you know? Like like Mr. Mom. It's the Jack Butler method.
I got to tell you before we get too far, the story of the first time I got licks. I was in 8th grade, and it was in band, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, we're all goofing off, and the whole class is being silly or whatever. And the band director got pissed, and she's like, "If you guys don't want to be here, you can go to the office and sign out and go do a different class. Y'all don't have to be in the." I don't know. She's just losing her shit, right? And she's like, "I'm serious. Y'all can stand up right now and go to this door." And I stood up. And I started walking over to the door, and the whole class is like, "Oh my God." And she's looking at me with her eyes all fucking big. Yeah. And I get over to the door, and I throw a piece of trash in the trash can. I walk back over, and I sit in my seats. And everyone just fucking starts cracking up. And even the teacher laughs. She's like, "Oh my God," she's laughing. But she sends me to the office. And I tell the principal what happened. He's laughing. He's like, "That's pretty funny. But, you know, it's still like a smart aleck, whatever. Like, you can't do that." And it wasn't like, "I'm giving you licks." He's like, "Because of that, you know, you can either do 2 days staying after school or licks." And I'm like, let's get this shit over with. I'm taking licks. But anyways, first time I got licks is for something that even the teacher thought was funny.
Did he light you up, or like did you feel like he was kind of being sympathetic to you? Yeah,
because I did see him another couple of times. I think that time he was probably a little sympathetic.
I had a coach knock my fat ass onto the desk, man. Like he fucking two-handed me like like fucking Willie Stardrill, like hitting a goddamn baseball. This sumbitch, he hit me like with an upward swing and literally knocked me face down onto the desk. And what's crazy about that is, so in those days, the teacher could take you, and the male teacher would be able to spank you but the vice principal had to stay in there with him. So it's like this guy is hitting you, and the other guy's just standing against the wall watching. It's like this really odd thing to think about now, right? I mean, that seems really weird that was the culture that we lived in, you know?
Yeah, I could definitely see like, you know, that story being told in like a movie or something. It's like, this is a very awkward scene right now.
Yeah,
you know?
There's a fucking movie about that, right? Like the Kevin Bacon and them, like they had the abusive fathers or whatever the fuck. Like, oh man, yeah, school. You know, God, I could go on for
But Everett's in an awesome school now.
Yeah, man, and he's stoked, and he's got baseball friends, he's got neighborhood friends. You know what, man? This is one of the things I said to Casey, and it happened just 2 days ago, Monday. And I said, I remember the bus would drop us off, and like I'd be walking with my friends, and like we'd make plans for the afternoon. On the walk, and I think all parents listening to this right now, I mean, if you're parents of 8 to 15-year-old kids, it can be very difficult to get them to go outside and do something, with just, again, technology and Netflix and all of that stuff. It's because they're being social on their phones now, and we don't have to get into all that, but we have to make him go outside. We're just like, on nice days, it's like, dude, go ring a doorbell or go out there and kick the soccer ball or jump on the trampoline. Like, put your phone down, go outside. And the other day I was taking out the trash because I'm a fucking rock star, Gary. And I hear this basketball bouncing 3 doors down. And I hear my son talking, and I just look around the corner, and there's my son with his buddy Trip just shooting baskets. Now, did he check in and let us know where he was? No, but I accidentally found out, and now he knows to check in. I just thought, man, that's the thing. It's like, they're on that walk back. It's like, hey, man, you want to kick the soccer ball around? Yeah, let me go put my bag up or whatever, and I was just like, that
social life's just falling into place because it's convenient.
It is, yeah. I found out that the girl across the street might be like the popular girl in school. And so they used to play a lot, but they don't anymore. And I think maybe she's like past like riding bikes and stuff with the dudes, But he is her across the street neighbor, and our families do hang from time to time. So, I don't know. We'll see how that works out. But, at least he's, I'm not saying they're going to be a couple or anything, but, at least if she doesn't say hi in the hallway, then, then when we go over there for like Super Bowl or some shit, it's going to be really awkward for her.
So like the making the kids go outside and play, that's something that I kind of struggle with. We don't have kids Tyler's age on our street. There's kids in our neighborhood, but there's on our street, like looking out the window and saying, oh, I'm going to go shoot hoops, right? Whatever. That's just not a thing. And I kind of like, I don't know. I struggle. It's not a guilty feeling. It's just like, I want him to have that, and I want him to get out and do that, but he doesn't. But then I'm also like, man, he's got 6 hours a week of baseball practice. And then he's got, right now he's got 2 double headers a weekend. And then like he's outside doing stuff with his friends, but it's all around baseball. So I'm like, well, that's good. He's outside. He's doing stuff. He's having fun. Yeah. But I wish it were more. I wish he had more that organic, like, just or whatever. Goof off and get in trouble. Yeah,
I don't think it's something that you should worry about, and here's why. Because I don't think the majority of kids in this country have that luxury. I mean, think about it. Like if you live in New York City, you don't just go out and everything has to be organized. Or you go to your activities. Otherwise, you're in the apartment. Or I guess you can go to the park or whatever. But like, it's definitely different than it was. Obviously, where you're out from sun up to sunrise like we were when we were kids. But I think it's just a personality thing too. I mean, Jack was on his bike around all the time and like knew every kid. In fact, all right, we moved here in 2014. He was 8 years old, and I'll never forget this. We like a couple of months later, we're taking a walk, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's such and such right there, and then this is where such and such lives, and this and this." I mean, like he had the whole neighborhood on lockdown. So that was his personality. Like he didn't want to be, honestly, until Fortnite, he didn't even play video games. So like he was just out, and that was his personality, and
I think that's totally a personality thing. And also for Tyler, he is me. He is like me. He needs to get home from school and he needs to decompress and be away from people and let his batteries charge back up, cause he's been social and he needs to have that time. But maybe it's not so much that I'm like, he needs to be outside doing stuff. It's just, I don't want him playing video games and sitting by himself all the time, even though he needs that time. I don't know.
No, I think,
you get it?
I think when you added up the hours that he's out there doing that shit. He's socializing on the baseball field. He's doing his baseball lessons. You know, he's at school. I mean, that middle school's a long fucking day, man. You know, and I think
it's a long freaking day, and with the sun setting early, and we get home and there's no time for him to go
100%.
outside. It's getting better now that it's spring.
Yeah, I mean, look, and make no mistake, like we get him to go outside, and he's out there for 45 minutes, and he's back inside now and checking his phone, and you know he's got a girlfriend now, which that will be another episode because coming up we've got Glen Matlock. Now, Gary, this is our very first Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and you know, I see nothing wrong with that. Not all shows get Rock and Roll Hall of Famers in the first, 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And how long have we been doing this? I mean, 182 episodes once a week. It's got to be almost 4 years, right? Be 4 years, like this October or something like that.
I think that's right. Yeah. Because we started before the pandemic. So
yeah, we did. Glen Matlock, you will know him from the Sex Pistols. This dude is credited for writing "God Save the Queen," "Anarchy in the UK." I mean, that's to be just saying those words. It's just, I mean, it might as well be the Star Spangled Banner. You know, like it's like this dude wrote. I mean, arguably two of the most influential punk rock songs of all time, if not just songs in general of all time. You know, influential wise, and certainly, you know, at a time when, you know, the rebellious aspect of like the hippie movement and all of that had sort of kind of wavered a smidge, you know, like, I mean, there were the bands in the 70s that were kind of doing that, but they would all kind of work that out and were on to other shit, you know, and so this band came out, you know, screaming about fascists and shit, and they were called the Sex Pistols. He has nice things to say about his bandmates, and which I thought was cool. This is a taped interview, and here's why I'm saying that, because Sean has pointed out that when we stack up our interviews, whenever they go to watch this, we're gonna have different clothes on. But also, I got a haircut today, and so
and our show doesn't have the budget for wardrobe and stylists and you know all that
to keep it all the same, right? So maybe we should just wear the same shirt all the time. That seems stupid.
I was meaning we're not changing clothes for different scenes.
Right,
and shit.
yeah,
It's just,
exactly.
You know, it was a week ago.
Yeah, it was a week ago. Glen Matlock from the Sex Pistols coming up. You guys are listening to the Rockstar Dad Show. Don't forget, if you miss part of this interview because it runs long, you can hear the rest of it via the podcast. We'll be right back. Y'all listen to this. Welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show. And Gary, as promised, this is a big deal. It's our very first Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee.
Exciting stuff.
Exciting stuff. Glen Matlock is here. Obviously, you guys know him from the band The Sex Pistols. You currently touring as the bass player of Blondie. Is that right, Glen?
That's right. Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles at the moment. I'm sort of hanging out for a little bit because we're going to do Coachella in about, I don't know, I think it's about 14th or something of April. And then
very nice.
So we got two shows of that, and then another one at the Greek Theatre, and then I'm going to do a band show of my own at the Roxy on the 29th of April with Clem Burke, and Gilby Clark's going to play guitar with me.
Oh, wow.
A few other likely lads, so it should be quite fun.
That will be fun. I mean, and you were a fan of Blondie, you know, growing, I don't guess growing up, but you know, you were into that. It's got to be
too late to grow up.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that's got to be one of the cool things, though, about, you know, what you've achieved is just to being able to play shows with your peers, as you said. You know.
Well, yeah. Well, I always liked about Blondie. I mean, I've known Clem. You know, he's become a good friend since they first shipped up in London in, you know, 78 or something like that. And what they always did, you know, you go out and see a band, and I suppose when they had a night off or something, they'd always be going out as a band together, you know, so you bump into them and you keep seeing them. And I knew Debbie a little bit, and Chris and Jimmy Destry. Nigel was in the band back then. So we kind of kept in touch over the years. So when Clem asked me to play bass, which was kind of about this time last year. It wasn't such a stretch. I mean, obviously I had to learn the songs, but you know, I kind of felt I fitted in a bit. They kind of had English bass players in the past, and even the American guy who then played bass for him now lives in England. So there's always that transatlantic connection.
Yeah, there was tea already on the rider.
Yeah, probably. But it'll have to be PG tips. None of this sort of wet kind of stuff you get over it. I've listened to what happened at the Boston Tea Party, and I'm on the coffee this morning. So.
Oh, I got you. It's so funny whenever we do a lot of touring in the UK, and when they hear that we drink iced tea, they think it's just the craziest thing in the world. And
yeah, it's
but we'll make it for people, and then they're like, "Oh, that's actually really lovely."
I guess it would be sort of like similar to an iced coffee, right? Those are big now.
I suppose, yeah. The only thing with tea, it's got a lot of tannin in it, and it makes you, and the milk takes the taste of the tannin away. So, sorry, I don't know how to get rid of these pop-up things all the time, but hopefully they're few and far between.
So
when was the last time you was in the UK?
Well, we'll be back over there actually in a couple of months, doing a festival called Slam Dunk.
Right.
And but we haven't been since last year, I guess February last year.
Right.
Big tour for us. We'll go back twice next year. So next year for us is 30 years, and so yeah, I'll be doing that. But are you living in the States now, or do you?
No, I keep thinking about it, but do you know what? I like being in LA, but I really like New York, and for the past 30 years, the same equation has been in my mind. I can't make my mind up and end up doing nothing, you know. But maybe it's just the politics in the UK. I mean, I know they're not that much better here, but in the UK, because I'm British, it kind of hurts a bit more, you know. So it's good to be out and seeing things from afar and in the thick of sort of turgid right-wing nonsense.
You definitely talk a lot. Obviously, you've always been political in your music and sort of calling it like you see it. And it's no different with the new song "Head on a Stick." You're obviously out there, you know, bearing your soul and trying to get us all to just kind of take a look around, I guess, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so. You know, I'm not trying to be Lenin or Stalin or somebody like that. I just calling it as it is, really.
Yeah.
And I just want a few more people to kind of wise up, the people who enable these nitwits.
Right.
Yeah, but I do think we've been led down a particularly daft path, and I think there should be a consequence. I mean, the album's called Consequences Coming. That's out at the end of April, and Head on the Stick is the lead track from that, although there is another single coming out which is actually called Consequences Coming. It's I think I've never quite understood this word, but I think it's eponymous, self-titled single from the song Consequences Coming, and that's what I'd like to see happen. I think it's beginning to happen. I think people are beginning to be called to account a little bit, and you know, figuratively speaking.
You know, it's funny that because
fine.
You know, I think you're right in this, and I think both countries are a mess in their own way, but it's funny because my friends from the UK will often comment on our politics over here to me, and I'll be honest with you, we have no idea what's going on over there. I don't understand how any of it works in the United Kingdom. Like it's completely baffling to me, like that I just honestly have no understanding of how it works, but I feel like you guys have a better sense of how our politics work over here. Is that a right assumption or no?
Maybe. I think our news channels are a bit more kind of worldwide than they are in America.
Yeah.
As I said before, Clem's a big friend of mine, and he comes to stay with me, and I have the news on, and he goes, "Hey, you know, they talk about other countries here," which is
right.
a bit of an eye-opener thing. I haven't got my finger on the pulse totally of what's been going on in America, but it's hard to escape the whole thing with Trump that's been going on for the past 5-6 years or so. I mean, I was in France at the time, with a lady friend staying there quite a lot, and the news come through that Trump got in, we was like gutted. And the same thing with Brexit again as well.
Yeah.
What's going on in England is there's a school called Eton, and it's for the very privileged elite. It costs like sort of 40,000, 50,000 pounds a year to send your kid there. And within Eton, there was a club called the Bullingdon Club, and all the politicians are in positions of power now. It was like a sort of an after-hours kind of drinking club, and they all get dressed up in, white tie and towels and get wrecked and get up to all these kind of hijinks. And one of the things to join the club, you had to burn a £50 note, which is quite a lot of money, in front of a vagrant or a tramp. That was one of the, and they're the people now who've ended up in power, and they've got no sort of thought for the common person at all. And it's like they've tried to take over the country for a jolly wheeze, and they've succeeded, and they've sort of led us down this path. It's wrong,
if when you look at this of the classic songs that you co-wrote, Anarchy in the UK, God Save the Queen, you'd be happy to know that I graduated high school in 90. So in about 88, I was in a government class, and we actually studied God Save the Queen it was actually taught as a lesson. But it's something that I feel like you've paid. Go ahead, Gary.
You had a pretty hip teacher for that to be a lesson in history in Wichita Falls, Texas.
She was pretty great. Yeah, she loved music, and yeah. But it's funny because the way that I discovered the Sex Pistols was because I was a little young. When punk rock was happening at first.
Why don't you? Yeah, go on.
Listen, I'm no spring chicken anymore. But it's because metal bands would play Sex Pistols songs. It was like, metal bands were accepting of this whole punk rock thing. So it's like I would see bands, and they would be and I don't mean like death metal, but like heavy bands, and then they'd play their version. And obviously Megadeth covering Anarchy in the UK was.
Well, it was funny. I went to Donington, not because I was a big heavy metal fan, but
yeah,
my lady friend at the time was a press officer there, and I went there. And Megadeth played Anarchy in the UK, and it was kind of funny. I was just in the crowd. And there was more people there than when I was in the band first time around. Than all the gigs we put together, there was probably about 10 times the number of people. And a bloke sang it, and he got the words wrong as well. So
right.
it was a bit odd,
Yeah, it is weird that they changed it to the... I thought it was the USA when he does that part or whatever.
There was something else he sang, but I can't quite remember what it was. But it weren't right. But
yeah,
the funny thing with that, I mean, it's kind of like my music mainly than John's lyric. But John, he's sort of come out as quite a right-wing bloke, and it's surprising. So, where does the truth lie between everything? I feel I stuck to my guns more than some of the other guys. Right. Steve wanted to play rock and roll, really, kind of cool as well.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about that 1,000 times, and we try not to, beat the dead horses.
1001.
Okay.
like the film The Dalmatians,
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, but it had to have been, I realized you left, obviously there's all the different stories of how you left, and you have your story, and obviously, yours makes the most sense. That you left the band on your own accord, and then Sid Vicious starts getting all the press for the band, and that couldn't have been. It doesn't seem like Johnny Rotten would have liked that very much.
Well,
I mean,
do you know what? I've got friends with Johnny Thunders, and I did some shows with him, and Jerry Nolan was playing drums, so I was still kind of privileged to do that. We did a tour of Australia and Japan and stuff in England and stuff in Spain. But anyway, Jerry was doing an interview that I was just sitting in the room, and he said, the thing was that when Glenn was in the band, there was a balance, and Sid, as you just said, kind of craved more attention than John, and it just upset the apple cart, really.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened. Yeah. But I mean, the other thing was, I wasn't total enemies with Sid. We did a one-off gig in England just before he left, and he was a pretty good singer, you know. But he was a singer in the way that Elvis was a singer. You know, he could sing a song, but he didn't really have the wherewithal to write a lyric like John did. You know, I mean, John was kind of great. He sort of had a Jonathan Swiftian kind of quality to his lyricism. I think it probably comes from his sort of second generation Irishness.
Well, there's definitely a snarkiness to the way that he delivers that's been, you know, copied for, you know, I mean, generations and generations.
Yeah,
as well.
even just in the content of the lyrics. So, yeah.
Well, this is the Rockstar Dad Show, and you do have two boys, and they're both into music. And you know, we talked a little bit yesterday, and you were saying that they're both out there doing it and working hard, and not really riding the coattails of Dad. But you seem really proud.
Yeah, I'm proud that they're grafters. You know, they work hard. I think they're talented. I've never pushed them into doing anything, but I think, you know, when they were growing up, I had a little studio, and maybe I didn't necessarily want to watch some dopey TV program because I was sitting trying to finish off a song in the little studio in the corner, and they sort of come in and go, "Oh, what's that all about? What's that all about?" And I think it just sowed a seed, you know. And my older boy, he wanted a guitar, and I said, "Well, actually, I've got one. I want my own one. What is one's your one?" It was like a cheap Les Paul copy, and I wanted to see that he was kind of meant it, really, you know. So I said, "Well, you get on with that, and then we'll see what happens." You know, and a year later, he said, "Well, I think I'm doing like that." And I said, "Well, you are." He said, "Can I have a better guitar? I've seen one in the window." I said, "Well, the thing is, the one in the window's really not that much better than the one you've already got. So why don't you wait a little bit more, and then you can get a really good one. But I'm not going to just give you a really good one. You know, it might be a birthday and a Christmas present combined, just to test him out to see if he was up for it." And he went for it, and that was it. You know, and then he got a good. I think he got an SG, Gibson SG, which is not really my guitar. I wanted him to get a Les Paul Jr. or something like that. But, you know, he's worked it, and he's doing really well. You know, they've been touring the States, so he opened up for. I always get confused between Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit. But he did Madison Square Gardens last year.
Wow.
Closest I got to Madison Square Gardens is either walking past, or there used to be a rehearsal place in the basement, and I rehearsed there with Iggy Pop in 1979. So, good for him. But he's in a band called Wargasm. So, but their own.
Yeah. I'm familiar with Wargasm.
They've done it all off their own back. My other boy, Louis, has got this new project, Clarence and the Modern Life. It's a bit sort of Harry Styles, a bit hip hop. He likes Eminem. It's all mixed up in there. But they were in a band together called Dead, and they were doing quite well. And then 2-3 years ago, the singer decided he didn't want to do it, and they had to rethink the whole thing. So there you go. But you know, I'm proud of them. They I know this is Rockstar Dad, but you know, I don't want to go on about them too much because they want to, as you said before, they want to be their own men, and I respect that.
Sure.
Well,
yeah.
They're touring, they're busy. You're touring, you're busy. But has it ever lined up? You get to go see him play shows ever?
Yeah, I went to see him play show. In fact, I went to see him in Ontario, California, and I saw them play, and then I went backstage and I was chatting to this bloke who I thought his name was Lee, and we was talking about termites in his house. I was like, I quite know what was going on. Anyway, the main band came on, Limp Bizkit or Linkin Park, and they kind of filtered on the stage. You know, the singer came out and said something, and the bass player came out and started doing a groove, and the drummer did something, and then the guitarist did something, and it's now, will you please welcome to the stage, the star of our show, everybody, DJ Lethal, right? But he was the bloke I've been talking to. I thought his name was Lee, and he had something to do with termite control.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
did rolling.
Right.
Who's that one? You know,
that's Limp Bizkit.
Right, Limp Bizkit. And then I was watching them, and then it goes down to big as rolling. and I was chatting to my boy who was watching from the crowd, and I said, "Oh, I like this bit best." He said, "Well, I'm not so keen on that." I said, "Well, that's what their whole song's about. It's from Rawhide."
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
was it?
When you said that, when you sang "Rollin', Rollin', Rollin'," I was just like, "Hey, he's singing Rawhide." I was glad Gary said Limp Bizkit because I was like, "The Blues Brothers? I don't know." So this new record, you seem excited about it. I know when we were talking yesterday, we talked a little bit about it, but Consequences is the name of the album. And
Consequences Coming.
Consequences Coming. That's right, because the next single is Consequences Coming. Video for Head on a Stick is out now. And, I was saying yesterday, I think for me, there's what's the band I said, Gary, that I couldn't remember what they were? Like I feel like there's like a Southern influence to this, but what have you been listening to the last few years, or is this just something that's just come out of the way that you write songs these days?
I think it's just come out of the way I write, but you can't ever write a song without being influenced by something. I mean, you can't,
Sure.
You don't have to listen to music nonstop all day long because you can't go in the supermarket and buy a pint of milk without some song blaring out.
That's true. Yeah.
So it all sort of insidiously seeps into you by osmosis. But it's no secret. I was kind of very fortunate to be born in the 50s, although I wouldn't mind to have been born in the 70s at this stage of my life. But, and then when I was 10, 11, we had this fantastic thing in England called pirate radio, and was where bands like the Kinks and the Who and the Yardbirds and the Rolling Stones and the Small Faces came through. And then we had this great TV show called Ready, Steady, Go, and all those bands would play on it. And Dusty Springfield was one of the big people on it. And she discovered, as far as England was concerned, Tamla Motown, and then you'd have all those bands on there, and like Martha Reeves and Vandellas and Sam Cooke and Smokey Robinson, all playing live. It was fantastic. And they all did these kind of 2.5, 3.5 minute songs that were like mini operas. And I think for me, that's the whole yardstick of songwriting. And, it weren't all about bring down the government, not at all. But like every song seemed to have some kind of small amount of consequence about something worthwhile. And that's my yardstick for writing songs. So, all right, what do you do, Glenn? Well, I write 3.5 minute pop rock songs. That's it, with hopefully some good players on it who kind of wacky it up a bit. I mean, on the album, a lot of the lead guitar is by El Slick. We'd be in the studio and, he'd try something. I said, that's all right. And she said, but maybe this bit's a bit too wacky. No, make it a bit more wacky. I like that. I like a simple song. In fact, I think one of the best adages about production is Nick Lowe. When you go in the studio, he said, what you do is you go in, you slap it down, and then you tart it up. It's kind of true.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, I think, I think it's easy to get caught in the studio overthinking things, right? I mean, it's easy to get in there and get bogged down on stuff, and it's like.
Well, I think lots of bands make a great first album, don't make a very good second album, and then rethink it and do a good third album. But I think their first album is normally pretty good because it's the songs that they got the deal on, and the songs that they demoed, they've been on tour with, they've ended up with the best ones that go down well and outplay them, and then they go and record. That's their first album. It's great. The second album, they have to make another record and write it, and it hasn't been road tested. Third album, they might think, oh, maybe we should go back to the way we did it in the first album. But I think to get around that, the best thing to do is make the third album second. Then there's no problem.
Right. Yeah. Just record the second album, and then exactly. Just toss that out.
Yeah.
And then make your third record, your second album, and then problem solved.
It's not impossible, because I have noticed in the States, in some places, there's no 13th floor on, in the elevator.
It's true.
And that's a great band, the 13th floor elevators,
Yeah.
Jaret, I think to your point, like so many bands can get bogged down in the studio because there's so many new toys, or you can just keep on adding and keep on. But then you get a lot of like you said, second records, and they may not be as good because now the second record doesn't even sound like the band sounds anymore.
It's very true.
Exactly. But go back to something like The Who, My Generation. I mean, the story is that they've been in a studio twice beforehand, and it wasn't quite right. And it was done in the third studio session, which was probably about 3 hours long. They just went and played it live, but they knew what they were doing, and that's why it's kind of good.
Well, let's go back to elevators. I will say this. You guys, though, have a 0 floor. So floor 1 is the second story, and that gets confusing.
Well, it's confusing when you're wrong because we walk in and it's kind of on the ground level.
Ground level, right?
It's flat.
Yeah.
And the next one up.
Yeah.
One up.
One up.
First floor.
Right.
There's a kind of a logic to it somehow.
Yeah. You know what? I get that.
And in mathematics as well. I mean, you might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it starts at 0. You've either got nothing and then you got 1. You got something.
Right.
So I'm not going to try and become head of Otis Lifts or something like that. I think they should have a word with themselves.
I will say this. I will say that the way that we write dates is wrong. You guys write dates correctly, small to large. So the day, the month, the year. And we write the month, the day, and the year. And that once I had that explained to me, I was like, yeah, our way doesn't make it's one of those things that Americans have just completely fucked up.
Yeah, but it's like spelling and all. I'm not disagreeing with you. Spelling and all. I'm quite interested in, the history of words and things. Again, I'm not exactly a Cambridge University graduate about it, but it's one of my little hobbies and things. And I was reading this book about how English spelling kind of happened. We got lots of O's and GH's and things to make a kind of sound. And it was because when we were invaded by the Normans, they came over and they met the Anglo-Saxon race who had all these kind of different ways of saying things, but the French the Normans weren't so big on writing, and they had like scribes, people who did the writing for them, and they were from the Netherlands, and they actually, and in the Middle Ages, there's all different spellings of things, and none of them were wrong. They were just trying out how to kind of express an off, like in cough kind of sound or something like that. Anyway, so it goes through like that. But the last chapter is about how American spelling came about. And it's basically because the guy who was in charge of writing your first dictionary after the War of Independence, he just changed them deliberately to tick all the U's out.
It makes so much sense.
We do what we want.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. We just gave...
And on the other hand, where I live, I've got a little garden and it backs onto a mews. And this is a few years back now. And out of the blue, I got a letter through my door, and I had ivy growing up the back of this mews building that I backed onto. I kept thinking I must do something about that because it was growing over the people's windows at the back. Not a lot, but a bit. But then I got this letter through saying, if you don't cut this down now, I will take legal advice and take you to court and all that. It didn't say, oh, please, can you cut it down? Right. It's not very neighbourly, right? And it turned out the bloke was American, so I just wrote back to him and said, there's a you in neighbour in this country, mate.
That's absolutely perfect.
I'll cut the ivy back, though.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that just sounds like an American that has enough money to move to the UK, actually. That's exactly how they would speak. Glen Matlock, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man.
And Gary.
Best of luck with the new record. Again, Head on a Stick is great. You guys can go watch the video for that now. Consequences Coming is the name of the album. It'll be out later in April. And you guys can go to glenmatlock.co.uk for any and all other information. And thanks again, Glen.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having us.
This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rockstar dads who started a show. Until the next episode.